So I think the challenge, which goes back to actually what, it's a wonderful pickup on what Janet was noting about manufacturing. The challenge here is to start developing manufacturing processes for gene therapies that can take them, and for cell-based therapies that can take them from essentially first in human to first to market. Now that doesn't mean that there can't be subsequent changes afterwards in manufacturing for further scale up, but one of the problems is that if you apply the old pharmaceutical development paradigm, I'm sounding like a broken record to people who know me on this. The old paradigm is you had a pilot phase and then you had a development and production phase or commercialization product. And those products actually didn't necessarily look exactly alike based on excipients and other manufacturing technologies used. I think the problem is that going from one technology to the other sometimes meant that there could be delays of year, 2, 3 to make one go to the other. And in the old development paradigm where you're busy with clinical trials and things were kind of slow, it worked. The problem is here when you have very promising results, particularly, I mean, just think about it from the patient's perspective. You've treated 10 patients with some uniformly fatal pediatric lysosomal storage disease, and you've now essentially cured them. They're living now for several years at least. They're beyond when they ever would have dreamed to be living. And now you have to shut down for several years to scale up. The patients, that just is heart-wrenching for the patients. So we have to figure out how we're going to bridge that gap, and whether that be through readily scalable manufacturing processes, cassette-based manufacturing processes where you basically have little cassettes that each one can manufacture 10 or 20 units worth of product. We just have to start thinking creatively. So I think that's going to be a real challenge here in this area, how we address these smaller areas for gene therapy. Not to say that gene therapy isn't going to someday be cardiovascular applications and pulmonary applications, the big diseases. But I think in the short term, there are a lot of rare diseases. It's like the elephant in the room. The problem in gene therapy right now that's actually limiting development for all these rare diseases, and for that matter, for common diseases, is you could have the perfect gene therapy right now for some cardiac disease. The problem is you couldn't make it at a cost that the system could sustain. So if you had a gene therapy that cut down the rate of myocardial infarction in middle-aged individuals by 50%, or even 25%, just some large number, pick it, you just couldn't manufacture it in a scale, because currently, whether it be lentiviral vectors or adeno-associated virus vectors, the two most common that are being developed now, you're talking about manufacturing processes where the cost of goods is tens of thousands of dollars easily per patient and with our current manufacturing process, because they're generally pretty inefficient. Now, there are a couple of companies that are now looking like they're kind of coming over the hump of figuring out how to manufacture these in a more efficient manner. But the scalability of these things has become a real problem, and I think that's limiting development in the field. It's certainly limiting the number of different trials, particularly in the rare disease space, because people just can't afford to start them up.
Right. On the CBER side, something called Interact, which is going to be a formalized structure for preclinical early engagement around cell-based regenerative medicine and gene therapy, recognizing, again, getting to the point I made before, that a lot of the complexities are on the product side and the manufacturing side. It's also going to allow for preclinical discussions around, the clinical portion of review. So we're not sort of just saying this is around product-specific issues, but we're going to create a formalized structure, and we have, for early engagement before the pre-IND stage, about how to get products into the IND stage, both solving for the CMC issues and solving for some of the clinical development issues. But we also think that we're in the early stages of how these products are going to be manufactured, and we need to move towards more continuous manufacturing. We need to move towards the use of gene cassettes to allow more seamless transitions between research grade and commercial grade manufacturing when it comes to the cell-based products. If you look at our budget request, our 2019 budget request that the president put forward, there was a substantial request put forward for money to develop public-private partnerships to try to advance continuous manufacturing as a construct. That has a lot of advantages, but one of the principal advantages is going to be around, we think, more cost efficiency and better scale-up of manufacturing when it comes to cell-based regenerative medicine, gene therapy, and also vaccines for that matter, moving towards continuous manufacturing of vaccines and away from the egg-based production, particularly the flu vaccine,